So I thought, well, what can we do about this problem? Well, my experience in industrial arts, the shop class, so why not set up shop classes? So I started a foundation. Made the mistake of using my own money. I didn't know about other people's money. I didn't. Again, I grew up in Bridgeport. You either stole it or you made it. So there's a great expression: if you're driving in Bridgeport, you're walking home. And you folks that have been to Bridgeport know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, started the foundation, Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs Foundation, with the intent of fostering this kind of thinking. Give kids a chance to hold on to tools and cut some wood and make a birdhouse. Do something. Get them away from the video games. Get them away from the television sets. And we found that there was a huge response. The kids loved it. Some kids, the younger kids, at the end of the day, when we'd have a little display or a camp, would literally start crying because they didn't want to leave. First time they've ever made anything. That doesn't mean they're not going to be brain surgeons, but they're going to be a better brain surgeon because they've already got this tactile experience. So the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association came to me, and we started working together. They work primarily in metal. And eventually, we joined forces. So now the Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs Foundation is run by the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association out of Rockford, Illinois, which I thought was wonderful because I don't have to write any more checks. And we ramped it up a little bit and started doing things like, which is something you can do here very easily, get the high school counselors, the guidance counselors, and the teachers to tour your facilities. Because there's an idea out there, because of, again, the media, that factory work is dirty, that it's ugly, that you lose your arm, that smoke billows out and you stink and you have black lung at the end of the day, because these people are watching movies, and that's the depiction of Hollywood. That's why everybody outside this room doesn't understand what you do and how important it is. The interesting thing is that that factory they always show is usually an electrical plant with white smoke coming out, and that white smoke is steam. It's not smoke. It's just steam because it dissipates. But there's, oh, look at that, oh, a factory, ooh, that's horrible. No, it's not. That's what keeps our civilization going. That's what keeps us strong. So once the teachers and the guidance counselors go through the factories, they have a different idea. So now it's not, they're not embarrassed or ashamed to send somebody to one of your facilities. Say, you know what, maybe college isn't for you, but you're a real good mechanic, and you can do certain things really well, and I know you like working on your car or helping your dad as a stonemason. Maybe this is where you should go. She'll hand him one of your cards. It'll come down. But you got to change the thinking, because, again, we are running out of people that keep this country alive, that keep this country strong, because we've told them, you're stupid if you go into manufacturing. My own guidance counselor, Mrs. Liskoff, Bassick High School, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Are you here, Mrs. Liskoff? We've already told this story. But she, high school senior year, sits you down. No, actually, she didn't even let me sit down. Funny. I looked for the seat. She said, you don't have to sit down. This will be quick. And she said, Ratzenberger, get a job in some factory. Find somebody that'll marry you if you can, and try to stay out of jail. I said, is that it? I took a little brochure off her shelf, and it's Tufts University something. I said, what about Tufts, Mrs. Liskoff? Because I'm thinking about either being a thoracic surgeon or an astrophysicist. I haven't really made up my mind. She stood up, she screamed at me so loud, her veins were popping out. Get out! Principal even ran in the office. He thought, somebody was being strangled. So, 5 years later, as God and fate would have it, I had already graduated from a university, and I was substitute teaching a class. After I graduated, one of the teachers asked me to come and teach one of his classes for a couple of weeks, and I did, right at the beginning of the school year. And there was Mrs. Liskoff, first row. And I thought, wow, you work fast. Because she was very confused. See, in her mind, if you're getting a job in a factory, you got to be stupid. You're dumb. Well, I got into a college, and now I'm teaching her. She didn't come to the second class. Because you could see the smoke coming out of her ears. She just couldn't understand this, how she could be so wrong. And that's what we're doing to our kids in the educational system. This was a while back, but it's gotten even worse now. So in setting up these camps with the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, and I've been going nationwide talking about it. I talked to Congress about this about 3 years ago. And afterwards, the congressmen and women, they come up and said, geez, we had no idea there was no more industrial training in schools. And I looked at them and I said, you're Congress. That's your job. And he had no idea. Somebody ate something that's back. A little agita, huh? Get some Pepto over there, that table 6. Thank you. So, in the scope of where we are in history right now, this is a place that the Roman Empire was at a time. And one of the interesting things, every time I come up with this fact, I always think, gee, I sound like Cliff on Cheers. But the reality is, one of the reasons the Roman Empire fell apart is because they literally ran out of stonemasons. Don't forget, the Roman roads were all stones. And they did the same thing we're doing. They started looking down their noses at people working with their hands, even though the Renaissance was all about people working with their hands. The cathedrals. In the Renaissance, coming out of the Dark Ages, if you worked with your hands, you were the rock star. All the mothers wanted to marry their daughters off to people who could thatch roofs and work with wood and work with stone because they were the hot commodity. And it will happen again here. When kids realize that, wow, I'm going to be making, in the Renaissance, you were a rock star. And I remember thinking this when I was talking to a high school senior class, and I said, who's going to college? Everybody pretty much raised their hand except some kid over to the right. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to go to vocational training. Everybody started to laugh at the kid. So I, didn't say I remained neutral, and I said, what are you going to study? It's auto shop. Now everybody really started laughing. I said, man, that is so funny, isn't it? I said, because at the end of 4 years, you guys are going to be waiting tables, paying back your student loans. He's going to own his own house. And he said like this, and I said, and also you're going to be taking your cars to him, and you're going to be paying him to fix your cars. And that is really the way I see the world. The manual arts have always taken precedence over the fine arts. People have to start to realize this. This actually quote was on the Starbucks coffee cup. They printed on 2 million coffee cups nationwide. I've got 1,500,000 in my garage. So if you like one, you just let me know. But it was the quote was, the manual arts have always taken precedence over the fine arts. Remember, someone had to build a ceiling before Michelangelo could go to work. And that's the world. That's just the way it's always been. We're not going to change it because, we got people overseas making this and making that. They're not going to come over here and fix your bridges. Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Anybody from Rhode Island, that area, Providence? Pawtucket. Big sign now. Only 2 axle vehicles can go over a certain bridge because it's falling apart. Why is it falling apart? Well, it might have something to do with that within 2 years, there's going to be vacancies for over 500,000 welders just in the United States. I know a guy in Chicago has been looking for welders for 2 years. You can put 20 of them to work. Just can't find one. But that's what we're faced with. And I know I'm bringing sand to the beach. And I know you know all of this. But what we have to start doing, and what we've started doing by partnering up with Heather Van Sickle at the National Association of Community Colleges, is starting to bring it out and offer these programs, get involved with the school system. Heather, are you down there? There she is, way in the corner. Because we're going to be setting up camps nationwide. What do you got, 16, 18 now? At the community colleges to give these kids a taste of hands-on, basically vocational training. And then if they show an interest in it, then we'll give them a scholarship. Get them involved in apprenticeships with your companies, with other companies, because you're going to need the workers. And you don't want them showing up, saying, well, I don't know how to read a ruler. Imagine that. Everybody here, when they got out of high school, could read a ruler. 3 1/4 inches. Yeah, I know where that is. Doesn't exist today. So that's why we exist. You know, people say, you could be fishing. You don't have to do this. My answer is, yes, I have to do this, because the fate, to me, of Western civilization is at stake. You're all going to retire. To me, it's someday. And what happens then? What happens with your children, your grandchildren? What kind of country are they going to step into? And if we don't have manufacturing, if we don't have strong manufacturing, well, a lot of people are going to be, using coat hangers to fix their cars and pieces of duct tape, because we have a responsibility to the future. And I think it has to do with patriotism, too. Again, I blame the people of Woodstock, because the educational system, we're taught that America's not that big of a deal. Say, well, it's like any other country. Well, no, it's not. I lived overseas for 10 years. This is the reason the rest of the world lives relatively well, certainly in Europe. We're the only reason they don't attack each other, because we're strong. And we're getting less strong because manufacturing is starting to peter out, because we're running out of workers. And we have to let our leaders know, we have to let our educators know that this is a pretty cool place, this America. Because patriotism comes from osmosis. You're not born with patriotism. You learn it from your parents. One of your parents is in the armed forces, or you go to parades, 4th of July, or you learn it at school. Well, we got to the point now, again, I go right back. I might as well write a book about this. I'm sorry I ruined the world. Apologies from the Woodstock generation. But it all ties in. It's one big weave. And there was a case recently where the teacher derided a student for drawing a picture of the American flag that said, "God bless America." The teacher stopped and said, "Well, this is upsetting to me. This is disgusting." Picture of the American flag with "God bless America." But again, that teacher reverse engineered. It goes all back to that philosophy that, America's evil, we're imperialists. And it all works. It's the death of 1,000 cuts that we're going through now. Be nice to be able to turn that around too. Like I said, with Heather and the community colleges that we're working with, that gives us a great opportunity to, especially inner city kids. See, the dropout rate is, whenever they canceled shop courses, the dropout rate instantly, 30% of the kids just drop out. There's some places in the country where 75% of the children do not finish high school. Well, they're not going to go to college, but we don't offer them anything else. So let's get the shop courses back in there. I got a garage full of tools. I'll happily lend them to you. I'll teach the shop course. But, and I do have a banjo made out of a cigar box and a broom handle I can bring up. But, in a nutshell, that's what I do now. I'll still make movies, and Pixar, I'm the only actor that's been in all the Pixar movies, Toy Story and Bug's Life and all that. And we have a new movie coming out June 18th, new Toy Story 3. But again, Pixar, the people who make Toy Story, they are who they are because they've kept their standard high. They haven't backed off. They've never lowered their standard. And that's what we have. That's what we've done. We've stopped giving dignity and respect to people that work with their hands. I mean, you give each other dignity and respect, but most kids, if they say to mom and dad, I want to be a bricklayer, I want to be a car mechanic, the parents go, oh, everyone's going to think you're stupid. So nationwide, little by little, we're turning this around, accommodate you. So once again, thank you. I know you got empires to run, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk to you. Thanks.